Welcome to the Checkered Shorts Podcast, a podcast of three fraternity brothers reconnected by their love of IndyCar. Join us for grid-rival IndyCar fantasy talk, predictions for upcoming races, and reactions to race day results and all things IndyCar. Let's go racing!
Episode 5. Thank you for joining us, everybody. See, we got 4 squares this time. We got our special guest, as we told you we would. So thanks for joining us. But a little bit about him. Our guest has been featured on Kid in the Spotlight on the Today Show with Hoda and Jenna. He was featured on the front page of the Indianapolis Star on the Indy 500 Sunday in 2019, as well as some cool magazines, South Magazine and Distinct Magazine, highlighting his passion for racing and giving back to kids in need. He's been featured in several local Indy news stories here on Indianapolis, WTHR, Fox 59, WRTV6, featuring his dyslexia advocacy and his racing career. Our guest has also participated in the dyslexia awareness campaigns and radio ads for the late Justin Wilson, who is Elliot's hero. In 2019, our guest, at the age of 10, founded Driving for Dyslexia to raise awareness funds for advocacy for people with dyslexia. He's a 15-time champion over the years, SCUSA Pro Tour champion, a 2-time winner at Sebring for Lucas Oil Raceway, and last year at the USF 2000, multiple podiums with the biggest one at IMS. Everybody, you too. And I will applaud Elliot Cox, everybody.
Boys, we got a real celebrity in our midst today.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. It's exciting.
Hey, man. Yeah, thanks for joining us, dude. We appreciate it. So how I know Elliot, I'm fortunate enough, this is how it kind of all started, fortunate enough that his uncle and I work for each other, and his uncle was like, hey, man, my nephew's like really good at racing. It's like, whatever, he's not, like, he can't be that good. He's like, no, he like wins like national championships. And this was 8 years ago. So I was like, well, let's go watch him race. So watch him at Newcastle, watch him at Whiteland, and was really that good. So 15-time champion. How old are you, Elliot, now?
17.
17. So moving through the ranks. So Kelly Landscaping is proud to help the kid in his journey to become, one of the best in the world type of thing. So that's how Kelly Landscaping and I got started, and now friends with Elliot, friends with his family. They live 15 minutes up the road for me. So it's easy. One, that I'm a race fan, and two, that the kid's good to help support when I can. So, hey, man, again, thanks for joining us, dude. We appreciate it. I guess first, just tell us about yourself, non-racing type of thing, who you are, what you like, type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, my name's Elliot. I'm 17 years old. I'm a senior at Franklin Central High School. I still go to school in person, unlike a lot of racing drivers. Almost done. I'm very excited for that. Outside of racing, I do swimming for my school, flag football for my school. And then I also own a business called E&G Media Growth. We do a lot of social media management, websites, things like that. So day to day, I'm pretty busy. And then when I don't have those kind of things going on, I spend a lot of time with my friends or on my simulator at home, practicing for racing or just playing video games like any other normal guy. So that's kind of my day to day life. And
yeah. Sounds good. Pretty normal, right?
Yeah. So it's got to be really interesting being your age, going to school every day, and having such a unique experience. We've all had that coming of age experience. The three of us have that prototypical growing up in Midwest Indiana, and some of our experience we share. We've been friends for a really long time, but going from childhood through teenage years, becoming a young man could be a lot of fun, but also a lot of challenges. What's unique about going through those experiences while growing up in racing?
I think the biggest thing that's unique, or even more so, the better word I think is challenging about it, is being in the world of racing. It forces you to grow up so much faster than a normal kid would. especially in my situation, a lot of guys come from a lot of money in their family. They don't have to go out and find a bunch of sponsorship to fund their racing career. I don't really come from that. Racing is very expensive, so I have to go out. I find my own sponsors. My parents help me as much as they can, and I have a lot of really good people behind me. But like I said, what's really challenging about being so young and in the racing sport is I had to grow up and kind of learn to be an adult at 12 years old. And don't get me wrong, I can still have a lot of fun with my friends when I want to, but it taught me at a very young age how to turn off more so the child part of me and learn how to work in an adult world. But ultimately, I think that will help me in the long run, obviously. And I've learned more by the time I'm 17 than I think a lot of people do by the time they're 25. So
Yeah,
Elliot,
we even saw on the NTT circuit the situation unfold with Connor Daly. So I can't imagine how difficult it is coming through the ranks and gaining sponsorships when they're at the pinnacle of IndyCar and they have similar challenges. How does an individual who's interested get involved in sponsoring Elliott Cox Racing?
yeah, so to get involved or to sponsor, I have a website. You can reach out to us on there, any of our social medias. But really, where we get the most out of it is just meeting people in general, just meeting people at the racetrack or through referrals from other people that know me already. Really, just getting my name out there is the biggest thing. What I've learned is when people hear about what's going on or that there's an opportunity to get in with it, they're more excited to just join in on it or hear about the opportunity. And then that's where I get to talk to them and just involve my story. And then I think that's where a lot of it comes together because it's less of, or at least I try to make it less of a business agreement, more of a partnership or a friendship almost.
Yep.
And a lot of guys just take the money and run. So that's really what I think is unique about that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so you're sponsoring the guy in the helmet more so than the number on the car.
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, excellent.
I can attest to all that. I assure you, for a 17-year-old, he has the firmest handshake you'll ever have. So if you ever, he's a good, normal kid. His family is just as good as they come. Just wholesome people. So I've never heard. I've been around Elliot a lot. I've never heard him say it that way. So I can 100% attest to that. So where how I know the story. How did you get into racing?
So I got into racing when I was 5 years old. Originally, I wanted a dirt bike, and nobody in my family told me that was allowed. Everybody said no. My grandpap at the time, he had just got in an accident. He had hurt his shoulder, spending a lot of time at home. And I've been best friends with my grandpap since I was little. I've always kind of had him wrapped around my finger too. So when I was little, I was like, "Hey, we should go get a dirt bike." And he was like, "Nah, they'd be really mad at me, but we can go look at them." So we went to Comet Kart Sales up north, and there was a little kid kart there that he acted like was going to be a fun yard kart experience, but I'm pretty sure he knew it was a racing go-kart. And we got home. We didn't ask my parents about this, and he said, "Go in and get your mom so she can help us unload this thing." And she came out and she lost her mind, screamed at him, told him that he's insane, told me I never drive it anywhere but the grass. Got to find out racing cars don't drive very well in grass. So we put it on the pavement, and I got in, and they wouldn't sell it to us without a suit and a helmet. So I got in, put my helmet on, and drove around in circles at what I thought was the speed of light. I was probably going 10 miles an hour at the time.
Sure.
And I just immediately fell in love with it and told my mom that's what God made me to do, and steadily progressed my way through the ranks of go-karting from local to regional to national to international. I represented Team USA in the Italy World Finals a couple of years ago, and then I made my single-seater debut in Formula 4 a couple of years back, and I've just worked my way through the ranks now to where I'm racing in USF Pro 2000, and hopefully, barring everything that has to happen to get there, 2 years away from my dream of IndyCar. So
it's awesome. So yeah, for the listeners, so he's mentioned, and I've mentioned USF Pro. So that's just the interleagues to get to the big leagues. So if you're comparing it to F1, he's been through the ranks of F4, so F3, F2, and then IndyCar. So just for a little bit of IndyCar 101 terminology. Dinwiddie, what do you got, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back a minute there. And I apologize for trying to jump in earlier. When you were talking about having to grow up early, Pat and I had a conversation about this a few years ago. And, I know you meet a lot of people but you and I got the opportunity to meet a couple of times a few years ago. I think one time out at IMS and then obviously down at Whiteland too. But that firm handshake, yeah, you had that at 13, 14, man. And I know that, I personally didn't have that till I was probably 20, 25. And so, just your willingness to come up and have those conversations and thank people for being around and supporting you. That's gone a long way, and it's going to continue to go a long way. So kudos to you on that. You actually have two former or current elementary education or elementary teachers here in this group. And so we're excited about what you've done with Driving for Dyslexia. And so I just wanted to, and I know you have a personal story there too. Can you share with us kind of how that got started and what you're doing with that and just kind of the history there?
Yeah. So Driving for Dyslexia, I founded in, I think 2018 when I was 10 years old. I founded it because one, I'm dyslexic. I figured that out when I was 7 years old. My dad was also dyslexic, and we just both faced the same struggles growing up with reading. We hated it. Was so difficult. Spelling was so difficult. And my mom just couldn't figure out why. I was smart out of that, would come home, do everything. But when it come to my reading or my spelling, I would just throw tantrums. I would never do it. And we got me tested for dyslexia. Came back very positive. So where that led me, I was very fortunate. The Dyslexia Institute of Indiana was partnered with Justin Wilson, who was an IndyCar driver at the time. He was very openly dyslexic. And I got to meet him when I was little. He took me around the trailer, told me not to let dyslexia stop me, and just became my hero from then on. And unfortunately, Justin passed away in an accident at Pocono a few years ago. And that is what inspired me to start my charity Driving for Dyslexia. I just wanted to carry on his legacy of helping other children through the sport of racing, through the platform that it gives me, and just ultimately raise money so kids don't have to go through what me and my dad had to go through when we were little. So
that's awesome.
Very awesome.
Like I said, I got the opportunity, and I'll bring us back to racing here. Pat invited me to come down a few years ago for your event down at Whiteland, and for the Pro-Am, and and we won't talk about Pat's racing abilities on that day, Mr. Spin Out. But what I was impressed with at the end of that, there was a pro race, and when we're talking pros, we're talking the big boys. We had Ed Carpenter and Alex Rossi and Hinchcliffe and Callum Ilott were in that race, and you took them all down. I mean, you had them in your rearview mirror. I mean, you dominated them on that day. So like that showed me right there. Like I was like, oh, I'm a big Elliot Cox fan now because like he just proved it. Like like Pat said earlier, you can say you're good, but when you go out there on the track and you take those guys and put them behind you like you did that day, that was impressive, man. So we wish you the best of luck. And we'll but you're proven you've got it. You've got the talent, and the future's bright for you, man.
Well, I had to go out there and show them who I was early, so they knew I was there.
My mom still makes fun of me for that first spin out. Man, I was like asking questions like, hey, I'm ready to go. And then, I barely fit in the seat. This was 20, 30 pounds ago. And I get in this darn seat, and I'm like thinking I'm going to win this darn race. I'm not racing versus Elliot. I'm racing but I spin out. These guys are helpless to try to get me out of the grass. But yeah, my mom still makes fun of me for that one.
Yeah, you just pretty terrible.
You're better sponsor than you are a driver.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Let's just say it wasn't his first and only spin out of the day.
No. How much? This is just how much money have you raised for Driving for Dyslexia?
I think just shy of $300,000.
Oh, wow.
That's gone a long way. I know teachers and students that have benefited from the program that you and your dad have put together. So thank you so much for what you've done for those kids in Central Indiana.
Absolutely.
Quite a bit for a 17-year-old, man. So what's next? What's where are we at next? What's the next steps in racing? All that. Where are you at?
So yeah, on my racing journey, we just got back from St. Petersburg for the opening race of the season. We took a big step. It was a really crazy off season actually. We talked earlier about how finding sponsorship and finding funding and even finding a ride is so difficult. There's 20 seats in this series and there's billions of people in the world, so you have to be one in the seat. You have to be good, and then the hardest part is finding the funding.
Yep.
For me, a season in this car that I would like to be in right now, the USF Pro 2000 car, is about $700,000 for a season. And I got the opportunity from the top team in the series 2 weeks before the first race. They called me and they were like, "Hey, we need a driver for this car. How are you how are you looking? Can we get a call scheduled tomorrow with kind of your manager, and can we see if we can get something sorted?" So we hopped on the call and they gave me a number, and I was like, 2 weeks. I think I made 94 phone calls is what I counted over the next 24 hours to try and find that money. And I didn't end up finding all of it until the Thursday before we were supposed to be on track for the race. So literally 12 hours before I was in the car.
That's crazy.
And the money was due the day of. Otherwise, I wasn't able to drive. So that was like the single most stressful week and a half, 2 weeks that I've ever been in. But I mean, we got there. I hadn't been in the car all winter. Everybody else had been doing winter testing. Everybody had been in the car for at least 1,000 laps over the winter. Hadn't touched it. So I hopped in the car first practice at St. Petersburg, and I led every lap of it except the last one. So I finished P2 first practice. I was 0.08 off or something, which is like unthought of for me, right? So
Sure.
I kind of got off that. I was on a high. Like, I felt good. The car felt good. Everybody on my team was happy. We went into qualifying, same situation. I led the whole session until a red flag came out at the end. Somebody pipped me at the end. Qualified third and second for my first two races in this new category. And then race one came around. I finished 24.7 of the 25 laps. I got in an incident at the end, but I was sitting in a podium position, so that was looking good. And then race two, I was in third place and got taken out by another guy. So the races didn't go how we wanted them to, but we showed our speed, and everybody in the paddock knows that we're there. So we have to find the funding to keep it going. So hopefully we can do that. Next race, if we got really lucky, would be NOLA Motorsports Park. But right now, it doesn't look like I'll be in the seat for that race. My goal is to be back in the seat by the third race of the season at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then hopefully go get a win at my home track would be awesome.
Yeah, I think obviously we love having you on, and this goes without saying. Elliot always is looking for solid sponsors, but I mean, if you don't want to sponsor the kid, rewind it a few more minutes. And the kid's legit at racing, but he's also legit in the heart too. He's a good kid, man. He has a passion. He can produce it. Obviously, from his accolades, he can produce on his passion. Needs some money, man. Needs some love. Needs some cool sponsors on the side of that rig of his. So that's thank you for helping us. We are more than willing to get your name out there in that aspect. Keith, you got anything? What do you got, bud?
Oh yeah, I got some more personal questions. Yeah, I love that aspect of open wheel racing, especially being new to IndyCar, new to racing in general. The access to drivers and seeing under the helmet, that's like a big draw for me. And then I'm learning about racing. Some people have got racing in their blood and they've been brought up with it as a part of their childhood. Not for me so much. So for me, what hooked me first were the drivers. And now I'm starting to learn more and more about the sport. So Ask some personal things. For me growing up, looking at a young man, my son, he's 18, just got into college, so kind of watching him go through growing pains, and we had our own. But some of the funniest and scariest moments growing up are trying to court the ladies, and trying to have that first date, holding hands for the first time, being so nervous, trying to get that first kiss, trying to steal that first kiss. Be honest, does racing help with the ladies? So make that experience a little easier, because for the rest of us,
Right.
that was the nerve-wracking part of growing up.
Elliot, hold on a second before you answer that, because your girlfriend might be listening. All right.
Oh yeah. So I don't know. It just kind of depends on the situation. It's definitely a talking point, but at the same time, some people might think like, well, that's cool. We should talk more. The other population is like, you're nuts. Let's like go away. So it's kind of 50-50.
I guess I can see that, but I would think some girls would be like, oh, he goes fast. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's what I think, at least, right?
Right.
Yeah. And talking about going fast, you gave us a really great story about your grandpa and getting your first kart and putting on the suit, putting on the helmet. How's that different today when you drop into the cockpit of one of these rocket ships that you're the pilot of?
So it's kind of odd. When I first got in a go-kart, it was awesome. Going up, karting got old-ish. I mean, I still love it the same. It just wasn't the same cool experience to get in the kart every time. And then I get into F4. Same thing as the first time in a go-kart. You get in, it's like, wow, this is real. Same thing moving up to 2000. And then really where it hit me the biggest was after not being in a car all off season this year, hopping in a car at St. Pete for the first time. I sat down and I'm like, wow, like this is awesome. So I just sat there and thought about it, right? And you just like, this is where I am now. I just got to go do it. And I think what also helped with that was, I didn't have a seat 2 weeks ago, and I found the rest of the money last night. So I sat there, and all the stress just goes away, and you're where you're meant to be. So that's really the effect it has on you, and you sit down, you become one with the car, and then you just go do your job. So
that's all.
The other thing I got is you spoke about some people that had a big impact on you, some drivers that really inspired you. What about today's drivers? We love to get on here and kind of chop it up a little bit about different guys, rib each other about guys that we back. But are there any guys on the NTT series that you admire or a fan of, or maybe even think style wise or the way you drive kind of mirror your style?
So I mean, I drive fairly aggressively. I have a fairly aggressive driving style. So, I mean, like Pato Award, he's one. I really like his style. I met him growing up. He came to some of my driving for dyslexia events. Felix Rosenquist, I still text with him. Will Power, I talk to him sometimes.
Will Power, the Birdman.
Yep. I came from Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing the past 4 years as well. They're like my second family. So they brought Joseph Newgarden through the ladder. So it's cool to see him out there as well. So I mean I'd say I have somewhat of a relationship with at least 8 to 10 of the guys on the grid. So
nice.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Ellie, who can you thank for where you are today? I know you've probably got a long list, but when you think about that, like who are those biggies that have really gotten you to where you are today?
I got like 200 people and then probably another 200. So many people. I think the most influential, obviously the first ones that have to go are my mom and my dad. They have worked just as hard as I have, not in the car, but out of the car to help me drive. If they're not there, I'm not driving. I'm not even where I am now. My grandpap, he got me in it for the first time. And then like all my sponsors growing up, from the ones that have stuck with me from when I was 5 years old to the ones that I've gained now, and then Of course, Kelly Landscaping.
Good plug.
Yep,
Right.
yep.
Smart kid. Smart kid.
I know the guy. He's pretty cool. He just can't drive.
Yeah.
But and then the most notable right now it would be Sarah and Andy O'Gara. They are probably realistically the most influential people other than my mom and dad on my career. I wouldn't have even had a chance to drive single-seater race cars without them, let alone have the success we've had without them. So I'm forever grateful for what they've done. And then right now, Turn Through Motorsport is extremely supportive of me. And that's the team I drive for right now in the USF Pro 2000 category. So countless people. I can't even think to mention them all because it would take me 3.5 hours. But tons.
No, it's good. Side note, Elliot might not even be the fastest in his family. His sister's like lightning fast swimmer, man.
Well, she tried racing and she was terrible. So she has her own thing. I have my own thing, and she can stick to that because when she gets in the pool, she's nuts. So
it's pretty cool. So side note, good job, Isabel. Yeah. So I think what's next? You said maybe NOLA, hopefully, and then the big one's IMS here after that. So that's all I got, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, the kid's legit. Again, if you're looking to get into no matter what kind of level of sponsorship or donation towards driving for dyslexia, or if you want on the side of his rig, we'll plug everything. Elliot, what's your website?
ElliotCoxRacing.com.
Okay. Find him on Instagram. Where?
eCox Racing. Facebook is Elliot Cox 51. Twitter or X now is also Elliot Cox 51 or Elliot Cox Racing. I don't remember. But it's all has my name in it somehow.
Yeah. So we'll put that on all our socials. So he's easily findable. So yeah, help the kid out. And we appreciate it. Keith, Brian, guys got anything?
Just keep up what you're doing, Elliot. We appreciate you jumping on our pod. I know we're early in this, but when we're making big cash, we're going to sponsor Elliot Cox. There's no doubt. So count on that as you help us get big, we'll help you. So.
Yeah, I just gotta say, I love a guy, a competitor that's willing to go out there and embarrass some guys that are, up there in the NTT series. Like, hey, you're coming down to my place, maybe doing us a favor in this pro-am race, but guess what? I ain't cutting you any slack.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it anytime. I'm not. I don't care how nice they are to me when I get on the track. It's my job to win. So
love that.
Not ever going to change out of me. So
awesome. Well, thanks, EC, man. I appreciate you. And we'll see you soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for joining us on episode 5 of Checkered Shorts.